Oh my goodness. Alright, some sportsmanship here. Let's go for game number 1. Let's get the countdown going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tetris. And we're off. And looking pretty good. Let me get a projector so I can don't have to squint to see these players. So far, the first Tetris is Rick says DanV is gonna get his right afterwards. DanV at 22 and Rick at 22 as well. And another Tetris for DanV. Choose 45 Tetris for both players. 68 for DanV, going perfect so far. 70,000 points for Rick. At both players are ready. Tetris for Dan, Tetris for Rick. 93 for Rick in the lead. Dan at 91, going perfect. He's gonna go for a burn here to ease some stacking instabilities, but he's gonna get another Tetris to 115. Pretty high efficiency steal from both players in the 90%, 90%. So Dan having to burn some more, so he's gonna lose some efficiency. However, gives a clean board. Rick at 161, Dan at 142. Tetris for Rick 184. Tetris for Dan at 167. Rick at 184. Tetris for Dan at 190. Rick having to go for some delayed burns. He blocked the well, so Dan is gonna be in the lead at 190. Rick is opening his well. Dan is ready. Tetris for Rick taking the lead at 212. Oh, and we have a bit of a drought happening here for Dan. And he's gonna go burn some more lines to keep things clean. And there's the Tetris for Dan. 216. Rick is ready. Rick right now at 214. Dan is gonna block the well, gets it open. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 237. Dan at 219. Tetris for Dan at 242. Rick at 238. Tetris for Dan 264. Rick at 239. Rick and Dan are pretty neck and neck right now. Hello, Katsu. What's the matter? Lots of keyboard smashing there from Katsugiri. Maybe for Dan. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 286. Dan at 288. Tetris for Dan at 311. I'm getting another Tetris 334. Rick at 308. We had some capture issues on okay, we're back with Dan at 341, Rick at 333. Dan right now at 343 is still trying to get into current position. He's gonna go for a dirty setup. Needs the Lombard, gets the Lombard. Tetris for Dan, maintain the lead at 366. Rick gets a Tetris to 361. So still a very close game on this second half of the level. A double J dependency from Rick, but he is blocking that well, so it's gonna slow him down a little bit, while Dan is still Tetris ready and gets another Tetris to 412. Rick at 364, nice bits and tuck from Dan, getting a Tetris to 435. Rick at 387. Rick is setting up. Dan is ready. Rick is still trying to find right pieces. Needs a J on the left to rebalance this, conversing to an L dependency as the J came, so a bit of an unlucky sequence there for Rick. That is gonna slow him down a little bit further. Hello, J Huang. Saying Vitz gang. Indeed. We got Dan right now at 426. I got a question. Was this supposed to be streamed at at YouTube, because I don't remember we have set up like anything for YouTube streams. In any case, 549 for DanV, 444 for Rick. Yeah, Rick is checking his head, confirming that we are not doing YouTube yet. Rick at 468, Dan at 596. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 491. Dan at 596. A very strong lead here, building from Dan into transition. 2 lines left. Rick with 10. Tetris for Dan transitioning at 620. Rick is gonna get a Tetris to 517. Still a good game, but Dan has been a pretty efficient player from the get-go. Tetris for Rick. Rick at transitioning at 541. Dan playing a bit high here, getting a Tetris to 650. Rick is Tetris ready at 542. Tetris for Dan and for Rick. Rick at 566. Dan at 675. Dan and Rick are both ready, waiting for the Lombard. Dan is getting pretty ahead in lines, over a full level ahead at 735 in level 21. Tetris for Rick, 595 in level 20. Rick and Dan are both setting up. Hello Lee, welcome in, and we got a Rick with 646 and another one to 673. Tetris for Dan, 812. Dan is just going at a very efficient game, looking for the 25 max by the looks of it, if he keeps that pace. Dan at 847 and Rick at 728. Rick having a good game, but his dance pace that is so strong right now. Tetris for Rick at 784, Dan at 884. 100,000 points separating the players, although they are also separated by 10 lines, so the gap isn't as big as it seems. Dan is reaching level 25 at 945, so just 2 Tetrises for the max pretty much. And he's gonna set up his first one. Rick is gonna have to burn some lines here, trying to get his well open. Dan at 977 and Tetris away from the max. Tetris for Dan, Rick, sorry, 877. Dan is waiting for the Lombard, but he's getting droughted, it's getting dangerous. He's gonna burn some lines and he's gonna go for the max maybe into 26 if he gets the Lombard, but he's not getting it. Whoa, he had to block the well for a second there. No Lombards. And there's a Tetris. For some reason the drought counter is not giving us the full drought, but that was a drought. 1,026,000 points. Oh, and a MISDROPS from Rick stopping out at 942 in level 25. Very unfortunate top out. He was having a pretty good game, but Dan was keeping up the stronger game and takes game number takes game number 1. GG. Got a ready from Dan, a ready from Rick. Let's go for game number 2 in. Oops, give me a second. 3, 2, 1. Tetris. Yeah. Yeah, Dan has the dribble. It's a pretty good fashion sense. We got Rick getting the first Tetris at 22. Tetris for Dan, 23. Tetris for Dan, Dan at 46. Rick at 22. Rick is setting up. Rick is gonna go for a couple burns and then a Tetris. Rick right now at 75, Dan at 91. Rick is setting up. He is ready. Dan gets Tetris to 114, taking the lead. He's in the lead. Rick at 75 gets Tetris to 98. Rick is setting up. Tetris ready again. Tetris for Dan. Dan at 137. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 121. So less than a Tetris separating the players. Tetris for both. Rick at 144, Dan at 160. Tetris for Rick, taking the lead, 166. Oh, Dan with a pretty unstable board. He had to get burning as the pieces were not very helpful right now to him. Dan at 164, Rick at 189. Dan is clean up. That's for Dan. Dan at 190, Rick is gonna get a Tetris to 235, so Rick remains in the lead. Tetris for Dan. Dan at 213, catching up. Rick is still Tetris ready, waiting for a lumbar. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 259, Dan at 213. Players must be careful. Dan right now at 238, Rick at 283. Tetris for Dan, Tetris for Rick. Dan is gonna be Tetris ready at 261, Rick at 306. So almost two Tetris separating the players, but Rick into some complications. Dan is gonna be taking advantage of this, reducing the gap to just over a Tetris. And now the drought, 22 and growing, so this is a very rough one. This player's facing a very rough drought that keeps going into almost 40 lines. There is a Tetris for Rick, and then should get his anytime now, and there he goes. 315 for Dan and 359 for Rick. Rick is gonna burn some lines. Dan is gonna take advantage of this, catching up fully. Pretty much 2 lines in the lead for 2 singles lead for Rick. Rick at 386, Dan at 384. So very close game right now. That is Rick. Rick at 408, Dan at 386. And Katsugi is destroying cold in chat, oh my goodness. Oh, very rough missed attack from Rick, and Rick is gonna go for a dirty Tetris to compensate for it. Tetris for Rick at 457, Dan at 432. Dan at 433, Tetris for Rick, Rick at 481 already. We are reaching 100 lines on both layers, and we are approaching transition. Tetris for Rick. Rick has 18 lines to go before transition, Dan still has 23. Tetris for Rick. 527, Dan at 479 gets a Tetris to 501. Dan is working on his tank. Tetris ready. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 551, Dan at 525. So just a Tetris and change separating the players right now. So pace-wise, I think that Dan is in the lead already at 548. Is still 10 lines away from transition. Rick is 7 lines away, gets a Tetris, so he's on his last Tetris now. On his last 9 line even. Rick is building. Dan is gonna get a Tetris to 572. Rick at 577. Transition for Rick at 601. Dan still has room for one more Tetris. Ooh, Dan decided to block the well, and this is gonna slow him down a little bit. Rick is having to open his well, getting the Tetris to 632. Dan with a pre-unbalanced board due to transition at 576. Gets a lumber over though, and gets a Tetris to 600, another to 624. He needs to clean up on the left side. Hello R7. Good evening. Hello Galaxy Biscuit. Hope everybody's doing well. We have a pretty exciting group of series of matches coming up. This is the first one, and so far we got Rick trying to get revenge of that first loss. He has a cleaner stack, he has the higher efficiency, and he's gonna get a Tetris to 720. Dan at 641. A bit of an overshift looks like, unless no, he doesn't that hang. He has another tuck setup, maybe for a square, but not getting it, so he's gonna have to go for a triple. Then at 705 after Tetris, Ray gets Tetris to 778, very efficient game. Tetris for Dan, and Tetris for Rick as well. 806 for Rick, and then at 734, she'll get hydrated. Tetris for Dan, then at 763, Rick at 760. Yeah, sorry, Dan at 764, Rick at 868. So we might be looking at a max in level 26 if he plays perfect. He's ready for it. Tetris for Dan, then at 827, Rick is burning a little bit, and then getting the Tetris to 902. So 3 Tetris away from the max pretty much. Tetris for Rick. Rick is gonna go for a couple burns. Then at 861, Rick at 933. Rick needs a J though. J is not coming, and numbers were also scarce. He's having to burn some. He's trying to get his well open. Good for a triple. Tetris for Dan. Then at 927, catching up. Rick at 943. Sorry. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 975. Dan at 928. So still a very close one. Rick is still heading lines by about 8. So 2 Tetrises, and that's the score difference is smaller than that. So Dan is back in the score and the pace lead. Both players getting a Tetris. 971 for Dan. Misdropping that square. Rick is gonna get the max out. 1,015,000. Dan in trouble. Dan needs to open the left side to get the burns he needs. Gets a well open. Gets a Tetris. 1,010,000. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 1,055,000. It remains in the lead. Dan has 8 lines left, but this stack is looking pretty nasty. And he is doing his best to recover. Rick about to reach transition into the kill screen, and he keeps going to the 1,096,000 and counting. 1,100,000 reached by Dan, but Rick, and Dan unable to keep playing, topping out at 1,022,000 into the kill screen. So Rick is taking game number 2. GG. Let me get some water. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for asking. R7, hello, Jevan, T, Wolbunt, and everybody else. Wolbunt says that he switched to a new glove. So that might be over for him. We'll see. Maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tetris. Okay, we got the capture working. Both flares are off. So we got a Tetris from Rick, 22, Dan, and different cartridge game for CTL, is it? CTL logo countdown. These no, this is Nestris Champs R7, so it's a technology similar to what you've seen at CTWC and other live events, where the capture is fed to a system that enhances the picture, and it has also some controls to do the count and the logos. WolfvI saying, just play a few hours of Puyo Puyo, seeing all those touching colors and clearing is stripping me heart. For real, imagine those chains. Okay, now I'm getting hydrated. 114,000 points already for Rick, and then in the lead at 139. Really high efficiency games of both players. There's a Tetris for Rick. Rick at 137, then at 139. Well, it's not quite an overlay. I mean, it's an overlay. It's a website that processes the graphics, and you put it on your OBS. In my case, I will be putting it on my OBS. But like, yeah, pretty much, it makes things prettier for competition in general. And this technology that CTWC is implementing starting last year, replacing trade vision, which was the pioneering technology that provided this kind of graphics enhancements for competition. Ooh, this is looking pretty rough for Dan. Dan needing to fix his board. He's J dependent. What the 5 bits was that? I don't know what happened there. I missed it. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 197. Looks like Rick didn't notice it. Dan in some trouble here, losing the lead as Rick is now at 221, Dan at 200. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 244, Dan at 204. Tetris for Rick. Rick at 267, Dan at 228. Rick right now going for Tetris to 289, Dan at 234. Rick is gonna go and try to go for some delayed burns and rebalance the board. Dan at 237, getting his well open, and then a Tetris to 263, Tetris for Rick, 315. So we are now in the second half of the level. Tetris for Rick, Tetris for Dan at 286, Rick at 337. Somebody pinged me. There is friendlies happening tonight. Oh yeah, Ian Keith is doing some Eat My Yellow for those who want to play at Ian Keith. Rick right now at 364, maintaining the lead. Dan at 300 and something, but Discord decided to update on front of my games. There we go. 311 the score for Dan. Dan is going pretty high, and the drought's not going to help him. He's trying to go through this dig with S's and Z's. Pretty rough sequence, but he's managing it pretty well. For some reason, his 9 piece counts maybe are... Yeah, I believe the piece counts are the ones that are not being fed properly from Dan. Oh, Dan with a misdrop on that S. He's resolving with Tux. So Dan right now at 368, Rick at 394. Oh no, Rick in trouble. Rick with a misdrop for the square, and this is not looking good, and he's stopping out at 394, and a Tetris for Dan. He's about to take the game, and he's gonna go for a single and win it by half a single. GG. Let's go for game number 4, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tetris. So yeah, level 18 is 130 lines long. So normally most players in this division should be able to play through level 18 unless they get like a very unfortunate sequence like that drought that happened. And yeah, so level 19 is a bit much more challenging, but still these kind of players normally play through 230 lines pretty often. Somebody pinged me. Alex C. So we got both players going on, and Dan right now at 72. Give me a second. So right now we got Dan and Rick pretty close to each other. 142 for Dan, getting a Tetris to 165 in the lead. Rick at 140 waiting for the lone bar. Rick right now at 236, Dan with a pretty unstable board at 259. Right now, Rick is at 286, Dan at 329. Tetris for Rick, Rick at 309. Rick right now at 352, Dan at 332, so the game became pretty close again, but Dan remains in the lead at 375 with another Tetris. Rick at 332 gets a Tetris to 354. Less than a Tetris separating the players. Yeah, it's good he overbooked, looks like. Hopefully it won't affect his matches coming up. We got Rick and Dan very close to each other, less than a Tetris away, and now just a fraction of that. Dan right now at 421, Rick in the lead at 424. Dan with the Vits, and finally gets the lumber to resolve it, but still needs another lumber for the Tetris. Vits indeed, and there's the Tetris for Dan at 445. Tetris for Rick, 447. Tetris for Dan, 468. So Dan's back in the lead. We're reaching 100 lines. Rick is ready, Dan is ready. Tetris for Rick, Rick at 470, Dan at 492. Rick is gonna get a Tetris to 493, Dan at 494. Tetris for Rick, Rick at 516, Dan at 500, so Rick is back in the lead. Transition is approaching. Rick at 516, Dan at 525, so it's pretty neck and neck so far. Tetris for Dan at 547. Tetris for Rick, Rick at 540. Tetris for both. Then Rick right now at 563, getting a Tetris to 586, man in the lead now. Rick and Dan approaching transition. Rick has 10 lines left, Dan has 7. Ooh, Dan with a pretty dangerous board look here before the transition with only 5 lines left. He managed to get the well open and a lumbar that helps him get things a little bit lower. Transitioning at 579. Rick at 610 and still with 2 Tetris available. But there is a drought happening, so he has to be very careful. Oh no. Okay, he managed to get the well open. He has room for the last Tetris. He's going to transition at 617 and then a Tetris to 641. Dan at 610, catching up. Tetris for Dan at 635. Rick maintains the lead at 647. Tetris for Rick at 673. Dan at 661. So a fraction of a Tetris separating the players. Dan takes the lead with a Tetris to 688. Rick is Tetris ready. Oh, the overshift of the T. But he gets a Tetris, so he's still in the lead at 704. Dan, however, having a high stack, needs to be careful. Lombard comes, he gets a Tetris to 718, takes the lead. Rick with a very rough board right now. Rick right now at 714, Dan at 777. Dirty Tetris from Rick, 742, doing a very nice recovery. Dan trying to, I don't know, will he try to score from here? Looks like he will. No, just a triple. 787. Rick is still having to deal with some holes on the stack, so has to be careful. Dan right now at 799. Rick at 751. Rick is setting up for the dirty. He's gonna just clean up. And oh, the misrotation on the T. He has a fake Vits there. just by accident. He's gonna get Tetris ready from row 3. Tetris ready at 789. Dan at 863. Tetris for Pkric at 820. So still a close game, just a Tetris and chain separating the players, and Dan is ahead in line, so paces are almost identical. Rick is Tetris ready, Dan is setting up, Dan is ready, Rick is ready, but players, oh, the undershift of the S from Rick. He's still Tetris ready though, but has to be careful not to block the well at this crucial moment. Gets a Tetris. Now he gets clean up. 864 the score for Rick. Then at 970, building a lead of over 100,000 points. So Rick needs to clean up and get back to the game. He's setting up a dirty Tetris in column 8. Another overshift of that Z. Tetris for Rick, 900. Now has to get clean. Oh, the undershift of that, but the spin tuck of that Z is not looking good for Rick. Rick needs to recover. Rick in level 27, then already level 28, then about to reach the kill screen to 1,083,000 already with the max, and keeps going. Dan and Rick unable to, topping out at 905. Unfortunate top out, and Dan takes it. GG. Oops. And let's see how far Dan can go here. Dan keeps going into level 32. Yeah, you are playing pretty well, Rick. But those over and under shifts, the mischiefs overall were a bit unfortunate. Let's bring our winner for today to the scene. This was a 3-1 win. There's our winner, DanV.
Calculate your new position based on the outcome of other matches. Yeah. Though I don't really need to do a lot of calculations on my end because I'm definitely going to get relegated this season, but that's okay. Smalling right now, 476, 419 for Dangler. Smalling currently looking for his first win of the season. Lost his first match in a decider, so has 2 points, but still would love to get a win under his belt. He's currently semi-finalist in the CTM Challengers run. So he's definitely capable of, as I say, he's about to top out, isn't he? Oh no. Needs something to the left side. Gets the J-piece all the way to the left side. Oh, it's over. It's over. He gets a lumbar. Gets the lumbar to the left side. Gets it all the way to the left. Flat burn with a T-piece. Has 7 lines to go before the 19 transition. Dirty touch it for Somalian. 537. He's still alive. Nice grip switch there. And he is going to survive, transitioning at 540. Dangler transitions at 530, so Somalian still with the lead into level 20, level 575. Dangler at 534. So very, very clutch dig there from Somalian. Definitely going to be adding that to the shorts. Truly is. Also, I have not been reading the Twitch chat. Sorry, guys. What's up, Ampu, Javan T, Tetris, Mountain Dew, and NGC Man? Yeah, I fixed it, NGC Man. For some reason, whenever you fix the titles on YouTube, it doesn't show in the... It only shows if you, like, I guess, click on the video. But I know I fixed it. Unless it just did an update. But... Yeah, I hope everyone is doing well today. 686 for Dangler, 703 for the captain. Oh, kind of a sort of hockey bar there. Or maybe a Kingsman bar. $746 now, 776 for Dangler, 745 for Captain, who's J dependent on the left side. Does bring down a Tetris, solves the J dependency with a long bar though. Sets up a couple of burns. It's gonna be okay, but Dangler's now ahead in pace. Behind in lines. Somali getting bursted with squares. 4 squares in a row. Gotta love those squares. And getting more squares just in case the game didn't think he had enough. The Dangler looks like he had a more accommodating board for all those squares. Keep in mind this is same piece sets, so both players are dealing with the same RNG. Somali trying to build up his left side, set up a Tetris. 824 now, has lost a lot of pace, while the Dangler at 937 looking for a potential 1.1 into 29. So Somalian in previous runs has had very limited kill screen play just because of the grip switch kind of not working in his favor. However, recently I've noticed that Somalian has been doing some rolling on 19. He's been starting to roll earlier, which really is just going to do a lot better for him because he's going to get more momentum as 29 speeds begin. And right now he's just needs one more burn for the max out. Gets a single now with the max out, gets a JP all the way to the left side. Yeah, and you're seeing that right now. He is making some work. Dangler with a 1.03, both players at level 29. Somalian going aggressive, bangs on a Tetris, takes the lead with that. Now with a 1.05, the Dangler with a 1.04. And it's shreddy again, but hangs that JP. Needs a long bar, gets a long bar for a Tetris, 1.09, looking for the 1.1. Just needs one more burn. And gets the burn for the 1.1, looking to bring this down. And he is clean. Great survival there from Somalian. The Dangler's not been able to capitalize on any of these pieces. Is still in a dig situation. Now level 32 is Somalian looking for a long bar to the left side. Something for the 5-tap. And gets the long bar to the left, but still needs to burn this down. Nice set of pieces here for the burns. Creating more holes in the stack though, and this might just do it for Somalian, topping out at 1.12. So the Dangler 1.12 is the score to beat, but it's also in a sticky situation. Needs something to the left side. Needs to set up a 5-tap. Is he gonna go with Tetris ready? No, he's just gonna burn this down. It's getting dried by 32 pieces. He's still not out of it yet. Hangs that L piece. Still needs about 30,000 more points. Hangs another set of pieces, and that will do it for the Dangler. Somalian will take game number 1. Why did my mic turn sideways? What the heck? So we do have it ready from Somalian and Dangler. So let's get started with game number 2. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris. What the heck? Oh. And Somalian saying that drought into 19 gave me the win. So yeah, Dangler a potential favorite to not only make the playoffs, but also maybe go all the way. Nice fitzer from Somalian. Somalian, having previously been relegated, has had a very turbulent career run in the Premier Division for CTL. He's gotten relegated once, has gone to the playoffs a multitude of times, but has also made the championship playoffs once. and he's just been upping his game lately. So definitely a tough opponent. Dangle with a bit of burns he has to deal with.